This is going to be a reply to a reflection that was submitted by a student who was submitting a reflection on participation. So the student out here, this section talks about participation, how it can benefit a classroom where students gain insight and some sort of benefit from other students' comments. Voluntary participation also allows students to contribute anything regardless of the class without being pressured to answer a specific question. But I personally think that having to verbally participate in order to get a good grade is also not the best way to encourage students to contribute to the class. So this is an interesting point that the student is bringing up, and they bring up the issue of transactional grading. That this is about transactions, this is about nothing more than did you do it, yes or no, and let's just kind of move on with our lives. Now, there are pros and cons to this. Let's just say in one situation, and I've used this method just to prove a point. Let's say we have Tyrone and Bill. Tyrone participated 25 times within a 2-week period, and Bill participated twice. Who gets the 100 in this situation? If Tyrone, let's just assume that all of the participation contributions were valid, they were on task, they were, they demonstrated understanding of the material and so on. If you do it just based on the amount of time somebody's participating, so let's just say half of that, that means if you participated at 12, what do you get, a 50? And then in order to get 100, you have to be around 25. But what do we do with Bill? Does Bill at that particular point, does he end up with like an 8 in that particular category out of 100 only because he participated twice? Well, how fair is that? What if Bill never participated in class all year, and these are the only 2 times he participated? Should he be rewarded on the same level? Is this fair? Is this equitable? So I understand all of the complexities with regard to grading, which is why I like to look at this particular question and look at all of the methods of grading, which is why I've been relying on reflections as a way to give students points back. Let's keep reading. As a student who does not like to participate, it takes a lot of effort to just think of a comment. So this is interesting because now the student's in class probably nervous. I better say something. This individual is going to grade me. This also has to do with the fear of asking or saying an uneducated question or statement. This may not only apply to me, but I know when I have something worth contributing, when I'm comfortable with sharing to the class. When I think about it, what is the point of asking questions that is not genuine so we're able to gain points? Well, the questions, if they're there to assess how the class is, let's say, processing or reading. What if the assignment was not? How does the teacher go about figuring that out? Or do we just live in a world where you complete, the essay, you complete the test, you complete the project, and then we just kind of move on with our lives? And we can all go to class and say absolutely nothing, and the assignments can just be presented there. That seems what this issue right here is addressing. I'd also like to point out that there are other ways to measure students' general participation, but just by counting how many times they speak during class. So what do you do in a situation where a student says absolutely nothing? Do we grade on participation, or do we say, no, we are not going to grade on participation? Let's look at some of the responses, and I've shown this before, where students in the last 5 or 6 years, they're willing to participate only if the teacher is going to grade on participation. However, students, 88%, find that there is a benefit to raising your hand without being called on. And I've been doing this every year for the last 5 or 6 years, and all of the responses come back with about an 80 to a 90% yes, that students find a benefit to participating. So I don't know what the right answer is here. I definitely identify with some of the issues that student is bringing up. I do allow the email, as a student kind of indicates here. I get it. And I don't hold anything against the student for raising some of these issues. Keep in mind, these are, questions that I have thought about. Now, let's look at this scenario here. Let's put yourself in this position. You are somebody who runs a business. This is you. I was going to put you at your desk. This is you sitting at your chair, at your desk, and you have one job that you're about to promote somebody. You have candidate A and candidate B. Let's just say they both graduated from the same college. They have the same military experience. Everything else is equal. What you know about candidate A comes to work, says absolutely nothing, never raises their hand, never communicates any frustration, just says nothing. And in this case, this individual, offers suggestions, gives feedback, comments, and maybe participates in meetings. Which of the two would you hire for this particular position? Would you go with candidate B or candidate A? And then the answer to the question would be why. The next question I have is, do we really want to have a situation where all of our institutions, people are just going to these institutions, whether they're military, whether they're school, whether they're college, whether they're businesses, and people are allowed to say nothing? And they just come in, they don't speak, they just kind of go about completing their work. Because that seems to be the issue here. Also, want to think about how can the teacher really know that somebody is paying attention to some of the readings, completing some of the work. We do recognize that there are different methods of showing, a student's understanding of the material. But what do we do about participation? Do we grade based on participation? Does America value participation? Let's do a search for that. America values participation. I'm curious to see what just kind of comes up. Oh, I guess nothing. Let's go education. But then we're going to be pretty much back to the same situation here. Participation, education. All right, I guess nothing. And just something that I thought about in my head as I was doing this. Anyway, that's it. So those are the questions I want you to think about. For the most part, go back to that scenario, put yourself in the position of you making the decision to hire somebody. Which candidate do you go with? Do you go with candidate A or do you go with candidate B?